The breaking point. The quantum feed cut in without warning across every screen in human space. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood proud before the Galactic Council, her ceremonial diplomatic uniform pristine against the ancient marble of the speaker's podium. The council chamber stretched vast and circular around her, its tiered seats rising into darkness, where thousands of alien representatives watched in cold silence. Humanity demands recognition as equals. Elena's voice rang clear and unwavering. We have achieved faster than light travel independently. We have colonized 17 systems. We have developed technologies that rival your own. The era of treating Earth as a primitive protectorate must end. High Counselor Zixtal rose from his crystalline throne, his iridescent scales catching the chamber's pale light. His 6 eyes narrowed as neural tendrils writhed in agitation. You speak of demands, human. Your kind was barely touching space when we first found you. Everything you are, you owe to our guidance. With respect, High Counselor, humanity's achievements are our own. Your guidance has been nothing but restrictions and barriers. Silence. The High Counselor's voice boomed through the chamber. Your species' arrogance exceeds all bounds. You were meant to develop slowly, carefully, under our direction. Instead, you breathe and expand like a virus, ignoring our quotas, defying our restrictions. Elena stood her ground. We are not your experiment, High Counselor. We are not your pets to be trained. Humanity, Zixtal cut in, has proven itself unworthy of existence in civilized space. The chamber erupted in murmurs as guard drones materialized around Elena. She didn't flinch. If you harm me, you declare war on Earth. War? Zixtal's neural tendrils rippled with something almost like amusement. Your species knows nothing of war as we wage it. Let this serve as education. The drones opened fire. Elena Rodriguez died without a scream, her body disintegrating in a flash of purple energy. The feed continued broadcasting for 10 more seconds before cutting to black. On Earth, in the chambers of the Security Council, Admiral James Chen gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles went white. Around him, the other council members sat in stunned silence. The holoscreen replayed the execution on loop, each frame burning itself into humanity's collective memory. They're already moving, General Sarah O'Connor reported, her voice tight with controlled rage. Long-range sensors show council fleets mobilizing at our borders. Multiple battle groups approaching colonial systems. They expect us to submit, said Dr. William Nash, head of Earth's Science Directorate, to break under their show of force. Admiral Chen straightened, his expression hardened into resolve. Then they know even less about humanity than we thought. He activated the Global Command Network. This is Admiral Chen to all Earth forces. Implementation of Protocol Omega. I repeat, Protocol Omega is now in effect. Across human space, hidden shipyards burst into activity. Weapon systems that had been developed in secret powered up. Sleeper agents embedded in alien worlds activated. The pieces humanity had been quietly positioning for decades began to move. Send this message on all frequencies, Chen ordered. To the Galactic Council. You have existed so long at the apex of power that you've forgotten a fundamental truth. The most dangerous opponent is not the strongest, but the one with nothing left to lose. You could have had humanity as allies. Instead, you've made us enemies. We do not recognize your authority. We do not accept your dominion. And we will not rest until either humanity is free, or we cease to exist. He turned to the assembled council. They think they know war. Let's show them how humans fight when everything is at stake. Within hours, the first Council scout ships encountered humanity's new quantum mines, invisible until the moment of detonation. Strike teams of human commandos, equipped with phase shift technology, began appearing inside Council installations and in laboratories across Earth. Scientists worked frantically to unlock the secrets of captured alien technology. The war that would reshape the galaxy had begun, and humanity, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, had one advantage the Council couldn't comprehend: the desperate creativity of a species fighting for survival. In orbit above Mars, the first major battle was about to begin. A Council armada emerged from hyperspace, expecting to find a defenseless colony. Instead, they found humanity's first line of defense. And humanity had no intention of making this easy. The war for survival had begun, and Earth would show the galaxy why you should never corner a species that had evolved as survivors, innovators, and warriors. The Council had ruled through fear for millennia, but they were about to learn that nothing in the universe was more fearsome than humanity with its back against the wall. Preparation for war. The Mars Defense Fleet hung in high orbit, a collection of ships that would have seemed impressive just days ago. Now, facing the overwhelming force of the Council armada, they appeared almost pitiful. But appearances, as humanity had learned long ago, could be deceiving. Fleet Admiral Sarah Hassan stood on the bridge of the EFS Prometheus, watching the tactical display as Council ships arranged themselves in their characteristic perfect formation. Their ships gleamed like polished jewels against the void, each one larger than humanity's largest vessel. "They're broadcasting their demands," her communications officer reported. "Immediate surrender and submission to Council authority." Hassan allowed herself a grim smile. "Send no response. Initiate Operation Chaos." Across the fleet, crews rushed to their stations. The Council expected humanity to fight conventionally, to attempt to match their superior technology and fail. They didn't understand that humans had been preparing for this moment since they first realized they weren't alone in the universe. The Council ships launched their first salvo, a devastating barrage of plasma torpedoes that would have annihilated the human fleet if the ships had still been there. Instead, the entire Mars Defense Fleet seemed to flicker and vanish. Holographic projectors functioning perfectly, Hassan's tactical officer reported. Real fleet now in position behind the Council formation. The Council ships' perfect formation became their weakness. They had arranged themselves for maximum firing efficiency against a frontal assault, leaving their rear arc vulnerable. Hassan had studied countless records of Council warfare. They always fought the same way, used the same tactics. They had achieved perfection, and in doing so, had become predictable. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Hassan ordered. "Show them why humans still train for chaos." The real human fleet burst into action, their ships moving in seemingly random patterns that actually followed complex fractal mathematics. Each vessel operated independently, following tactical doctrines that prioritized initiative and adaptability over rigid formation. The Council ships struggled to reorient themselves, their perfect formation breaking apart as they tried to track targets that refused to behave according to their combat algorithms. Human ships darted through their lines, launching salvos of quantum-tipped missiles that phased through energy shields designed to stop conventional weapons. "Ma'am," her sensor officer called out, detecting power spikes in the Council flagship. "They're preparing their main weapon." Hassan had expected this. The Council's ultimate weapon, capable of erasing entire fleets from existence. They had used it to maintain their dominance for millennia. But humanity had been studying their energy signatures and had prepared a surprise. "Deploy the quantum interference nets," she ordered. From the holds of human ships sprang vast webs of energy, appearing to be random tangles of force, but actually precisely calculated to disrupt the Council's weapon. The massive energy beam that should have annihilated the human fleet instead scattered harmlessly into space. Impossible. The Council commander's transmission burst across all frequencies. "Your technology is inferior. You cannot." "We don't need superior technology," Hassan transmitted back. "We just need to understand yours. And thanks to decades of preparation, we do." The battle continued for hours, the Council ships gradually losing their cohesion as human vessels struck from unexpected angles, used tactics that defied prediction, and employed weapons that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. When the Council commander finally called a retreat, nearly a third of his fleet had been destroyed or disabled. Back on Earth, in the newly established War Command, Admiral Chen received Hassan's after-action report with grim satisfaction. "First blood to us," he announced to the assembled leaders. "But this is just the beginning." Dr. Nash stepped forward, his team's latest findings displayed in the air before him. "We've analyzed the debris from the Council ships. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's stagnant. They haven't made any significant improvements in centuries. They reached what they considered perfection and stopped innovating. And that's their weakness," Chen realized. "They can't adapt quickly because they've forgotten how. Every victory we achieve will force them to face something they haven't had to deal with in millennia: the need to change." Across human space, the news of the Mars victory spread like wildfire. Humanity had stood against the Council's might and emerged victorious. But even as celebrations erupted in the streets of every human city, military leaders knew this was just the first step in a long war. In her quarters aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Hassan reviewed the battle recordings, looking for ways to improve, to adapt, to surprise the enemy even more next time. The Council had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for too long. They had forgotten that true strength lies not in achieving perfection, but in the ability to constantly evolve. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why evolution had made them the ultimate survivors. Revolution among the stars. The Galactic Council's central chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from a dozen species argued openly, their voices echoing off the ancient walls. High Counselor Zixtal watched in growing alarm as centuries of carefully maintained order crumbled before him. "The humans have destroyed another of our primary fleets," announced Ktheri, the militant overseer. "Not through superior technology, but through tactics we've never encountered. They refuse to follow any known combat doctrine. They're spreading dangerous ideas," added Representative Mira of the Collective Minds, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Several younger species are questioning our authority. There's talk of independence, of self-determination." In the shadows of the chamber, Ambassador Ven of the Arcanian Republic listened intently. His species had served the Council faithfully for millennia, but watching humanity's resistance had awakened something long dormant in his people: hope. Meanwhile, deep in human space, a secret meeting was taking place that would change the course of the war. Admiral Chen sat across from Ven's daughter, Lyra, who had risked everything to make contact. "My father believes as I do," Lyra explained, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "The Council's rule has stagnated our civilization. Many species watch Earth's resistance with hidden admiration. We want to help." Chen studied her carefully. "The Council has ruled for thousands of years through fear and technological superiority. Why turn against them now? Because humanity has shown us something we'd forgotten: that evolution requires chaos, requires challenge. The Council's perfect order is slowly killing us all." Within weeks, supplies began mysteriously disappearing from Council depots. Shield frequencies were leaked. Patrol routes became known to human forces. The Council's perfect machine of war began to show subtle signs of rust. The turning point came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Council launched a massive assault, expecting to finally crush human resistance. Instead, they found themselves caught between the human fleet and a surprise force of rebel ships from 6 different species. Admiral Hassan, commanding the combined fleet, watched as the Council's formation broke apart under attack from multiple vectors. "They can't adapt," she transmitted to all ships. "Their technology, their tactics, their entire civilization is built on the assumption that they've achieved perfection. Show them the power of imperfection." The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come. Council ships, faced with attacks from forces using dozens of different tactical doctrines, couldn't maintain their coordinated defense. Their perfect formation shattered against the chaos of multiple species fighting in their own unique ways. When the Council fleet finally retreated, they left behind more than destroyed ships. They left behind their aura of invincibility. News of the victory spread rapidly through quantum channels the Council couldn't control. Across the galaxy, species that had been subjugated for millennia began to stir. The Council's perfect order was cracking, and through those cracks, freedom was beginning to grow. In the War Command on Earth, Dr. Nash presented his latest findings to the military leadership. "We've decoded more of their base technology," he announced. The Council's entire civilization is built on quantum-locked crystalline matrices. Perfect, unchanging, eternal, and absolutely vulnerable to chaos-state quantum interference. "You're saying we can disrupt their technology at its most fundamental level?" Chen asked. "More than that. We can show other species how to do it too. The Council's greatest weakness isn't their rigid tactics or their inability to adapt. It's that they built their entire civilization on the assumption that they had achieved perfect order in an inherently chaotic universe." As reports flooded in of more species joining the rebellion, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Council had executed Ambassador Rodriguez to maintain their perfect order. Instead, they had sparked a revolution that would transform the galaxy. In the Council chamber, Zixtel received the latest reports with growing dread. More than a quarter of their subject species were now in open revolt. Human quantum interference weapons were spreading throughout the galaxy. And worst of all, species that had been carefully engineered to be peaceful and compliant were beginning to remember their warrior histories. The Council had spent millennia creating perfect order. Humanity had shown the galaxy how to embrace chaos once again. And the galaxy, it seemed, was ready for change. The Alliance rises. The Great Hall of Earth's War Command had never hosted such a diverse gathering. Representatives from 23 species sat around a massive holographic table, their differences striking yet united by a common purpose. Admiral Chen stood at the head of the table, Ambassador Lyra at his side. "The Free Species Alliance becomes reality today," Chen announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Not through conquest or coercion, but through choice. Each of us has suffered under the Council's perfect order. Together, we choose a different path." The holographic display showed the current state of the war. Red marked Council territory, blue showed human space, and green highlighted the systems controlled by rebel species. The colors formed a complex patchwork across the galaxy, the Council's once unified domain now fractured and contested. "Their recent attacks have become desperate," reported Kuval, a former Council tactical officer who had defected. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked as he manipulated the display. "They're using weapons they swore never to employ, breaking their own rules of warfare. Because we forced them to adapt," Hassan added from her command chair aboard the Prometheus. Her hologram flickered slightly as she leaned forward. "Every adaptation, every broken rule, weakens their claim of perfection. More species defect each time they contradict their own doctrine." Dr. Nash stepped forward, accompanied by a team of scientists from various species. "We've made a crucial breakthrough. The Council's quantum crystalline technology isn't just their strength, it's their foundation. Their entire civilization resonates at specific quantum frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies on a large enough scale, we can shatter their perfect order at its core," Lyra finished, her silver eyes gleaming. "But the cost would be enormous. Many of their subject species are dependent on Council technology. The disruption could collapse their civilizations." A somber silence fell over the gathering. This was the moral complexity of their war, how to defeat the Council without destroying the very societies they aimed to free. The silence was broken by an alarm. The holographic display flickered as new data poured in. Council forces had launched a massive offensive against multiple Alliance worlds simultaneously. But something was different about this attack. "They're not using their standard formations," Hassan reported, her voice tight with concern. "They're adapting, learning." "Show me," Chen commanded. The display zoomed in on one of the battles. Council ships moved with unprecedented irregularity, mimicking the chaos state tactics that humans had used so effectively against them. "They're desperate enough to abandon their doctrine of perfection," Kaval observed. "This is unprecedented in Council history." But even as the Council forces displayed their new tactics, Alliance commanders noticed something crucial. The Council ships might be moving chaotically, but their chaos was programmed, calculated, a simulation of unpredictability rather than true adaptation. They don't understand, Hassan realized. They're trying to replicate our tactics without grasping the underlying principle. True adaptation isn't about mimicking chaos. It's about embracing it as a force for growth. The Alliance fleet commanders quickly adjusted their strategies. Instead of responding to the Council's pseudo-chaos with similar tactics, they employed even more unpredictable approaches. Ships jumped in and out of quantum states randomly. Weapon frequencies shifted constantly. Communication patterns followed neural network algorithms that evolved in real time. The Council forces, despite their attempts at adaptation, couldn't keep up. Their programmed chaos couldn't match the genuine unpredictability of species fighting for their freedom. System by system, the Council offensive was blunted and turned back. In the aftermath of the battle, Chen addressed the Alliance gathering again. The Council tried to adapt, but they did so in the only way they know, through calculated perfection. They still don't understand that true strength lies in imperfection, in the ability to grow through failure and learn through chaos. Plans were made, strategies devised. The Alliance would push toward the Council's core systems, but not just with military might. They would bring with them an offer of peace, not through submission to perfect order, but through acceptance of diversity and change. As the gathering concluded, Lyra approached Chen privately. "My father sends word from the Council capital. More species are questioning the old order. The Council's attempt to adopt our tactics has backfired. It's shown their followers that even the supposedly perfect can change." Chen nodded, watching the representatives depart to their various ships and worlds. The Council wanted to preserve the galaxy in perfect stasis. Instead, they're about to learn why evolution favors those who can adapt to chaos. The final phase of the war was approaching. The Alliance had proven it could defeat the Council militarily. Now came the harder task, showing the galaxy a better way forward than the false promise of perfect order. A new dawn. The Council capital system, Harmonious Prime, had remained unchanged for 10,000 years. Its crystalline megastructures and perfectly arranged orbital platforms represented the peak of ordered civilization. Now, as the combined fleets of the Free Species Alliance emerged from quantum space, that ancient order faced its greatest challenge. High Counselor Zixtal stood in the central chamber, watching holographic displays of the approaching Armada. Ships of all sizes and designs, representing dozens of species, moved in patterns that defied prediction algorithms. At the heart of the fleet, he recognized the distinctive profile of the ESS Prometheus. "They seek to destroy everything we've built." He addressed the remaining Council members. "Everything we've preserved. Countless species have prospered under our guidance." Have they prospered or merely existed? Ambassador Venn stepped from the shadows, finally revealing his role in the rebellion. "You guided us towards stagnation, not prosperity. Evolution requires change, even if that change appears as chaos." Before Zixtal could respond, a transmission cut through all frequencies. Admiral Chen's image appeared before the Council. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Free Species Alliance. We do not come solely as conquerors. We offer a choice. Surrender your authority. Help us transition to a new galactic order, and you will be treated with justice. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to destroy the very foundation of your civilization." Zixtal's neural tendrils writhed with fury. "You would undo millennia of perfect order for your primitive concept of freedom. Look at what we've achieved. No war, no conflict, no chaos, and no growth." Chen responded. "No innovation, no true life. You've created a galaxy of perfectly arranged pieces, but you've forgotten that the universe itself thrives on chaos, on change, on the beautiful uncertainty of evolution." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Council unleashed weapons of impossible power, their perfect formations executing flawless attack patterns. But the Alliance forces responded with constantly evolving tactics, their ships moving in ways that seemed random but contained an underlying harmony of their own. Dr. Nash, coordinating from Earth, activated the quantum interference network that the Alliance had spent months positioning. The Council's crystalline technology began to fluctuate, its perfect frequencies disrupted by controlled chaos. In the midst of the battle, Hassan's voice cut through the command channel. "Look at their formations. They're trying to adapt again, but they can't break free of their basic programming. They're still seeking perfection even as it fails them." The Council's mighty weapons, designed to maintain order, found themselves countered by technologies that embraced disorder. Their perfect defenses crumbled before attacks that changed faster than their predictive algorithms could process. As their defenses failed, Zixtol made a final, desperate decision. If we cannot maintain order, then let chaos consume all. He initiated the Council's Doomsday Protocol, designed to reset the galaxy to a state of perfect order, or destroy it in the attempt. But the Alliance had prepared for this too. Quantum disruptors, developed through collaboration between human and alien scientists, struck at the very heart of the Council's power. Their crystalline structures, their perfect technology, began to break down not into destruction, but into transformation. The battle ended not with the annihilation of either side, but with a fundamental change in the fabric of galactic civilization. The Council's technology, rather than being destroyed, was transformed. The rigid quantum crystalline matrices that had maintained perfect order for millennia evolved into new forms that could adapt and change. In the aftermath, as representatives from hundreds of species gathered to forge a new galactic compact, Admiral Chen stood with Lyra and Ambassador Ven in the transformed council chamber. "We didn't just win a war," Lyra observed, watching species that had been enemies for millennia now working together. "We prove that there's strength in imperfection, in diversity, in change. The hard part begins now," Ven added. "Building something new is always more challenging than maintaining the old order." Chen nodded, thinking of Elena Rodriguez, whose death had sparked this revolution. "We'll build something better. Not perfect, but alive. Growing. Evolving. The way the universe intended." Above them, the crystalline structures of Harmonious Prime had begun to change, their rigid patterns flowing into new forms that combined order and chaos in ways the Council had never imagined possible. It was a fitting symbol for the new galaxy being born, one where perfection was found not in rigid order, but in the endless dance of change and growth. The war that began with humanity's defiance had ended not in destruction, but in transformation. The galaxy would never be the same, and that perhaps was the greatest victory of all. The end.